You're the night sky, trying to make me see your stars. But the dark gets lonely. Now I see violet, I can feel silence. And the dark's all that I see. When your stars have burnt out and your heart makes no sound, I'll find violet in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. You're the night sky, hiding behind dark grey clouds. I can't figure you out, now I see your blue. There is so much cold in you, and the silence is so loud when you go. I just stay dancing with my shadow all day. Watch the tide, I can't find the point where our two paths align. Right? You're the night sky, I'm trying to see your stars, but I've always feared the dark. Now I see violet, I can feel your silence. You always feel so far when your stars have burnt out and your heart makes no sound. I'll find violet in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky.
Welcome to the Black and White Show on the Sunday, the 1st of March 2020. We are live on Nova Radio Northeast 102.5 and live streaming across the NFTV, Newcastle Fans TV socials. So coming up on the show tonight, we have special guest Alex Hurst live in the studio. A lot has been happening recently with the Newcastle United Supporters Trust, and Alex, the chair of the trust, is here with us. And later on, we'll be talking about the redevelopments around St James's Park and what it could mean for the future of the club. In the final hour of the show, we'll be reviewing yesterday's goalless draw against Burnley. No goals, but lots to talk about and discuss. We'll also be previewing Tuesday night's encounter at the Hawthorns against West Bromwich Albion in the FA Cup 5th round. So please do get in touch with your thoughts and any questions you have for either us or Alex. You can WhatsApp message us on it's
0747 649
Johnny at the
7166.
You couldn't have picked a worse moment there, Johnny, to change the computer screen. But yes, the WhatsApp number is 0747. The mic stands in the way. 0747 649 7166. There we go, we got there in the end on the WhatsApp number. You can also, as always, put your comments in the live stream posting. And yes, we will keep up to track with that during the course of the show. So, tonight, yes, in the studio we have Johnny, as we mentioned there. So not off to a good start tonight, Johnny, I have to say.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about there, Rob. I think I'm alright.
You're on the controls tonight, so it's a big night for you.
Yeah, well, it's about time. You need to do something different each week, don't you? Keep you busy. But,
keep you busy, yes.
But no, I'm looking forward to it.
And also we have Lee, as always, maintaining the stream, making sure it's world class as always. How are you doing, Lee?
Not bad. It's been a alright week. Could have been 3 points yesterday, but apart from football, yeah, it's been a good week.
And finally, Alex, good start. You found the place all right.
I did, and I'm really pleased to be here and talk to you lads for the next couple of hours.
Lovely. We are really looking forward. It's really great to have you here on the show. So this afternoon we did have a WhatsApp message come through, and this is from Kevin. Do you think we're still going to get relegated? He said he watched the game yesterday in first half. He felt that it was all right, but then just seemed to fall a bit during the second half. So, straightforward question first up. I'll adjust the room. Do you think we're going to get relegated?
I'm going to say no. I mainly spoke about this on the last word yesterday, and we were saying that at the minute, this is before Watford battered Liverpool, by the way, that I think Newcastle will probably just do enough. I think it's going to be a very tantalising, nervous 10 games left in the Premier League, but I think maybe at the minute we're going to just have enough points to just to get through the end of the season as still a Premier League side, but it's going to be a nervous watch, Rob.
32 points from the first 28 games of the season. Of course, you go by that of just over a point a game. That'll take us up to around about 44 points, which in many, many seasons past has seen most, if not all, teams to safety in the Premier League. Lee and Alex, what do you think on the situation? Do you think we'll get relegated?
Alex, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I agree with Johnny. I think that we haven't been near the relegation picture, since September, October time, and although the form has been disastrous of late, I actually thought yesterday, as frustrating as it was a marked improvement on definitely the Norwich and Oxford games at home, and also the 2 away games with Arsenal and Palace. I was at Palace and walked out after 80 minutes. It was so bad. It was a waste of time being there. You know, Burnley, I think a lot of Newcastle fans see the name Burnley and think we should be beating sides like that at home, and I would agree with that. However, Burnley aren't going to get relegated. They are not one of the worst teams in the league, and I thought we were the better side comfortably yesterday. That said, it was still a really frustrating game, particularly in front of goal, and you know their keeper has hardly had a save to make. But you know, Burnley, they're 9th in the league. They're not a rollover. They don't lose heavily to teams. They don't concede a lot of goals. Their best asset is their defence, and I thought they were much happier with a point yesterday than we were. If we're going to maintain that kind of form, if we're going to improve from here, because you know, Steve Brewster changes formation in the end of February. It's mental, isn't it? It's a huge gamble and a huge risk that he's taken yesterday by doing that, and it hasn't come off because we didn't win the game. But did we rely on Martin Dubravka making 6-7 saves just to keep the score down? No.
Just a nice change for not having to rely on Martin Dubravka. I think we will stay up. I think we're getting dragged slowly into it, but I think we'll just have enough. We're not scoring goals. We know that's a problem. We'll talk about that later. I'm sure you will, but yeah. I think we'll have enough just.
Certainly on the agenda for tonight, the lack of goals, but we're certainly in good defensive shape. And I think you'll find that it was back in October the Matty Longstaff goal against Manchester United to win us that game, took us out of the relegation zone, and we've not looked back since.
Yeah, the NE29 lad does it again.
Oh, yeah. Even in Kyle's absence, bless you, Kyle, but yes, we still can't escape the NE29 postcode.
Alex, if you didn't know, Johnny and Kyle are from North Shields.
Oh, yes. So yes, moving on to why we're here. Alex, thank you very much again for joining us on the show. So this week, a lot has been happening around the Newcastle United Supporters Trust. The AGM was on Thursday. Can you tell us how that went?
Yeah, it went great, I thought. I mean, I organised it, so I'm always going to say that. You know, AGMs are not the sexiest of events.
No.
You kind of have a lot of, you have to reappoint your accountants, you have to produce financial accounts, you have to kind of confirm a few things, and it was really good that quite a few people turned up to question me and the rest of the board, and you know, it's nice to have that interaction with people on a face-to-face basis. But yeah, it went as well as could be expected from our point of view. We thought it would just be us 7 on the board, but there was a few more than that.
That's good to hear. So how has the relaunch of the Newcastle United Supporters Trust gone down with fans? And of course you've been in existence for a year now, and this is very similar to the article that you wrote for the Chronicle 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I mean the Trust has been around since 2010, and I think every single Premier League club right now has a Supporters Trust. And just to fill listeners in a little bit, the point of a Supporters Trust is a democratic and transparent vehicle to communicate with the football club. The Premier League insists that its clubs, its members, communicate effectively. You know, the jury's out on that one, but communicate at least with supporters, and Supporters Trusts are the best way of doing that. We exist as a member organisation purely for fan issues, and you know what your question there, how has it gone since the relaunch? I think it's gone really well. I think if we'd got to 1,000 members after a year, we'd be delighted. And as it
Was
is,
that the target?
yeah, that would mean we didn't really have definitive targets, but if we could get 1,000 people, that we thought that would be a good outcome for a year's work. And instead, we've got just over 10,000. That doesn't, numbers aren't everything. What we're looking for is an engaged membership, and I think we got a lot of feedback. We'll get a lot of feedback this season. We'll feel that maybe some people joined with not fully understanding what the trust was about. We're not a protest group. We don't exist to organise boycotts, and I think that surprised a few people who joined up. When there was that proposed boycott of the Arsenal game, which didn't work because there was 46,000 people there. A lot of people said, "Why didn't you back this? Why didn't you do this?" And it was just like, well, find me anywhere that the Supporters Trust has ever said that it would do anything like that. And to be fair, I think there's only me and one other on the current board who go to games. So the board does have a healthy representation of people who are not going to games because of the ownership. But it's been a good year, and we're one of the biggest. I think we might be the biggest Supporters Trust in the country. Spurs have got a big one, and West Ham have. But whether there's paid membership there, no one really knows. But we had the biggest ever fan elections back in October, November time. 3,000 members voted, and again, it doesn't sound particularly exciting, does it? A fan election, but the fact that 3,000 people took the time to read the statements, and there was some really good candidates put forward. There was 9 people for 4 spots. That's really what we wanted, and I have to say a lot to sometimes disaffected members or skeptics, and they say, well, what's the point of talking to the club? I don't care what they say, and that's fine. There are loads of people who couldn't care less what the club say, but there are also those people out there who do care what Lee Charnley has to say, or what people within the club. There are people out there who are aggrieved at the ticketing system, locking them out on the box office website. Like, not everything matters to everybody, and that's why we exist. If there is a fan issue, like the fans last year as well, at Bournemouth who were arrested, like, our members came together and raised some of the legal fees for those lads, because I was at the game, and I know if anyone listening or watching is out there thinking, well, fans just shouldn't go on the pitch. Bournemouth is not like St James's Park. Yeah. It's such a small ground, and was scored so late that with lots of people walking out of the ground, you have to go to the front to walk out. My friend came really close to tumbling over the side. He would have been arrested as well. So we can do a little bit of good like that, and what I like to say to fans is it purely exists, the Supporters Trust, for us as Newcastle United fans. It doesn't exist for any other purpose. It is a body that represents us with the football club, and it's only £1 to join. We, one of the first things that the new board did last year, reduced it from £10 to £1. It's only £1 to join, and it gives you a vote in any meaningful action that we take, and might not be for everybody, but trust me, the more people that join, the louder our voice is with the club. And I think Newcastle United, as a football club, one of the big accusations is that they don't care about what fans think. Well, we have a chance several times a season to sit in front of the people that make decisions and get answers for fans. You might not like the answers that they give, but at least we can get some answers. And I'd say at the minute that the club hierarchy doesn't even speak to the local media, really. Doesn't speak to the Chronicle, certainly as much as I'd like to see them do. So, as a fan, I would like to ask, for example, my preference would be, surely in January it appears negligent to me that we didn't sign a striker when we're one issue this season is we can't score goals. I would like an answer to that question. The only way that question, or any question you lads have got, or anyone listening or watching's got, is to join the trust, because if we had 50,000 members rather than 10,000 members, we might get those answers a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and you said a £1 membership, so what does that £1 from a fan go towards?
So, I mean, it goes into the trust bank account and goes towards running the trust. Our accounts for year 18-19 came out last week. We've got about, at that time, we're about 36,000 in the bank. There's no massive plans to splurge or anything, but, every time we send an email out to 10,000 people, there's a cost. Whenever we have to develop the website, there's a cost. When we have to hire rooms for AGM, there's a cost. But it does put us in a position that, should we ever want to move on fan ownership or anything like that, would have the money to set things up. And I'm really passionate about fan ownership. I think whoever buys Newcastle United after Mike Ashley must get fan representation at board level. I mean, we don't have a board, we'll have Lee Charnley, but you'd assume anyone else who does buy the club would have a properly appointed board in place, and there needs to be fans on that. And the Supporters Trust, with its kind of transparent and democratic organisation ideas and ideals, I think are the perfect people to do that. And just to be clear, anyone watching or listening can stand for election to the board. You might hate what the trust does. You might think this is a total waste of time. I'd do things totally differently. Great, you have a chance as a member for your £1 to stand for election and to change things from the inside. No one ever gets things done just by complaining or just by, mouthing off on Twitter. And it was great to see a couple of the lads who stood for election this year were behind what the trust is trying to do, but they were very much wanted to take things a different direction, and they had that opportunity to speak to members. So it exists for us as Newcastle fans, and I would urge everyone listening and watching to get involved.
Yeah, and so of course we say it quite a bit on this channel. Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley and all the rest of it, they can't be at the club forever. Do you think we might actually reach a point where the Newcastle United Supporters Trust will end up part owning the club?
That's definitely an ambition. Now, realistically, like you say, full ownership in the Premier League is not realistic because of the subs involved. But
Do you think it could work?
Could it work in terms of being able to buy them or fans running the club?
Both.
Well, fans running the club definitely work, because what you would do with like any business, you would appoint appropriate people to run your football club. One of my concerns about Newcastle United is if there are 20 people working in the social media department at Arsenal, for example, there are 3 working at Newcastle. If there's 100 people working in Man United's box office, there's 10 at Newcastle. So I don't want people to think fan ownership is a load of blokes or women from the Gallagher rocking up one day and running the club and picking the team. That's not it. Fan ownership means ownership. It doesn't mean running the club. It means appointing the best people that we can possibly get from the manager to the players to the coaches to the admin staff to the CEO to the MD, whatever you want to call them. That's what fan ownership looks like. But more importantly, fan ownership is making sure the club is run for the benefit of its supporters, not a wealthy individual.
And so do you think there needs to be more of that amongst the Premier League clubs? Do you think there's a fair representation that Premier League club owners are doing what's best for their supporters? Yesterday we saw at West Ham, for example, huge protests against the board. Do you think part fan ownership would really benefit at West Ham?
Definitely, because I'm not a West Ham expert, but I'm pretty sure that from the West Ham fans I know and the unrest that you see, no West Ham fans would have wanted to leave their ground or somewhere 4 miles away. Like, we wouldn't want to move to the Silverlink, yeah.
Well, I don't know about that.
But and they did it in what West Ham would say, the football club, is we consulted people. And it's like, actually, we had a decision maker, someone who's responsible for the best of the football club, involved in actual making decisions, not consultation, not what's your opinion, but a decision maker. Then stuff like that could be avoided. And it's not just the Premier League. You look at Sunderland down the road. Sunderland was sold for £5 million 2 years ago in League One. Hilariously, they're still in League One. I don't know if you listeners know that, but it was sold for £5 million. And now Sunderland have got their own trust. But if they'd just been a bit more organised, could their fans have not taken on the club for? It's a lot of money to all of us sat here, and I'm sure everyone watching and listening. But I'll be pretty confident that if Newcastle will be relegated this season or next, and would be relegated again, which is not outside the realms of possibility, considering the luck that Ashley's had in the 2 managers he had and some of the players on board who stuck around to bring us back up twice, that it's more likely we'll be relegated again. And if Ashley is going to walk away from the club because the club falls that far, I promise everyone listening that we will be in a position to not let a couple of chances take the club on.
Excellent. So we've just had a message in through WhatsApp. It hasn't left a name, unfortunately, but this person has said, love the idea of a fan-owned club, the likes of Bundesliga teams, Real Oviedo in Spain, the Newcastle faithful, the mic stands in the way again.
We'll elevate the club to where it belongs.
Excellent. So yes, by elevate the club to where it belongs, do you think that Champions League, of course, might be a long-term goal, but what would be the immediate goals, do you think, of a fan-owned club?
It depends how you look at it, because if you look at like Portsmouth, for example, they're more or less fan-owned now, and they have been for a few years, and they're slowly but surely getting back to where they would say they belong at the minute. I would say Portsmouth, and they would be Championship. Maybe on a realistic could be a Premier League, because they've got the back end of the support. For Newcastle, I think baby steps is probably the best way I could describe it, because
Take it in.
if you look off the pitch, isn't it? Because on the pitch, if you look at the last couple of years that we've been in the Premier League, the lowest have been as 13th. So, in terms of the next step, if you're looking just from a table point of view, it would be top 10 in Europa League positions. But if you look at someone like a Wolves, for example, who have completely transformed in it's not out of the realms of possibility of them being in the Champions League this season. They're only 3 points off the Champions League places. Again,
They're backed by money, though.
they are
aren't
backed by money, but surely Newcastle have got a far bigger pull than a Wolves.
I think
if they're both on the same level.
If a fan ownership come in, I think you've got to look at ticketing, because I pay, out of all of our group at Newcastle Fans TV, I'm the one who pays the most, and I'm quite aggrieved by that. I pay £90 a month for my season tickets, and I look around me and there's people paying £40. People who got free tickets. I know that's obviously I'm sure you're going to get asked that later, Alex, about the ticketing and all that. But I would probably look at that. Could it keep going up and up and up? And what we're not getting is answers. Why is it going up? Like, why is it a 5% this season? Why was it last season? Can you justify that? No. You look at the forum, which we all know. I personally think it's a joke. The forum, you get one forum a year when you're meant to have one every 3 months, and you don't. They're not. And because we had a member, Mark Betham, who used to be on our channel, he said that all the minutes don't get released, all of them, like exclusive, so they hold some of the minutes back as well. So me personally, if I had the fan side, I'll be ticketing. I look at first of all.
I think one question I would like to ask Alex maybe is why does Lee Charney, why does he not speak more often? Why does he not give the fans answers? Is he afraid of the response? Is he afraid of the publicity or the negative publicity? Or is he being owned by a Mike Ashley who's going, just don't say anything, just keep out of it, because it doesn't matter what we say, it's going to be negative anyway.
Hard one for me to answer that, because I don't know him very well. I agree with you though that, for example, Aston Villa. I mean, I hate Aston Villa, but Aston
Likewise.
Villa, their support communication, they release a podcast with the trust and the CEO. You compare and contrast to here, and you make some good points. The fans forum has been abolished, and we recommended to the club that the fans forum go. It didn't serve, in my opinion, the interests of the fans. It didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? Because the fans weren't organised to make it happen. If they didn't do anything, if they only had 1 year out of 4, what were the negative results?
It wasn't Alex. It was the same people who you meant to get elected to new people. It was the same people consistently. And the two, some of them, not all of them, but some of them were too scared to come out and speak against Ashley or Charney because they'll lose the place on the board.
100%. And what we've got now is we've got 4 different fan focus groups that meet 4 times a year, and we're supposed to have 4 meetings with Lee Charney. And it's not just us; any other democratic fan organisation, the club say they'll meet with them. To answer Johnny's question, it comes back to what you were talking about in terms of supporter ownership. I wouldn't look at supporter ownership in terms of the Champions League or league position or anything like that, although that is what we all want and that's what we think we're capable of. To me, supporter ownership is a simple message. The club being run in the interest of its supporters, nothing else matters. Now, why doesn't the managing director of Newcastle speak to supporters? And I can only speculate on this, but whose interests does he represent? Is he accountable to the supporters, or is he accountable to Mike Ashley? And I'm pretty sure I know which one you would go with. And so ultimately, are they that interested in what supporters think? Does it matter? These are questions that only they can answer. But yeah, the club told me, and they put in writing, they were going to have a transformative communication strategy this season. And that included the managing director doing far more media. What have we had? We've had a pre-recorded soundbite on Radio Newcastle, and that's been it, and we're in March. Now I think, and I will tell them this next time I see them, I don't think that comes anywhere near. Never mind transformative, it wouldn't even come under the banner of a communication strategy.
We were down Palace, and we were just wrapping up our filming, and Lee Charney was with Glenn, who's the security who follows Ashley everywhere, and he looked absolutely petrified because he must have seen us, he may or may not have knew, but obviously seen us wearing black and white, and he hovered over his car for about a good, wasn't it? It must have been about a 5 or 6 second stare at us, thinking, what do I do here? It was that kind of look, wasn't it? And we just thought, you know what, we'll walk on and we'll not say nothing, because we're doing a lot of stuff with the foundation. We don't want to say something in case that hampers that. I
think the problem was as well is that, again, you can look at this 2 ways. We don't really know what Lee Charney does on a day-to-day basis. We assume, that he tries to help Newcastle commercially better, and on the pitch he helps the head coach with trying to get players in and tries to improve the team in terms of that side. But we don't hear anything from him. I think maybe I might be wrong in this, Alex, but I think we've had one interview with Lee Charney, and that was on N.U.S.T TV, when Rafa Benitez was appointed either as the full-time manager or just until the end of the season. I think that is the only interview I can think off the top of my head where he's actually, you could hear what he was saying about maybe the slightest future in Newcastle United.
I don't really take those sort of interviews on board on the basis that whoever was doing the interview is basically interviewing their boss. Any sort of...
It's not an interview, is it? It's
Yeah.
not an interview. It's sound bites. It's
Yeah.
what he wants to say. An interview would be responding to questions.
Yeah.
That's just... I totally agree with you. That's just a bloke who says, I want to say this. Make sure you ask me the questions. But give me that over what we've got now. So even if Lee Charnley was speaking once a month to the club's own channel, better than we've got now.
Definitely.
Even something like behind the scenes stuff, the club have obviously improved the YouTube channel a lot more. I mean, it used to be horrendous. Why can't they do something on maybe on not so much Charney, but maybe stuff that people who make the decisions, maybe disable the comments so they're not like targeted, because there will be. Let's face it. Something along those lines. Just a little bit. It's more human. It's just more human. Sorry, Rob.
Oh no, it's fine, fine. And a little side note, elsewhere, Aston Villa have lost. Thankfully, we can rejoice as Newcastle fans that Aston Villa have lost the Carabao Cup final.
Johnny's got... Be careful, because Johnny's got friends there.
I have got friends that are Aston Villa fans, but I bravely and almost stupidly said to one of my friends' dad, I said, Aston Villa will not win a trophy in the next 5 years.
Ooh.
And then they got to the final. I bet them £50, so my wallet's still firmly shut. But I was a bit nervous when I went to 2-1. But yeah, congratulations to Man City, three times in a row. League Cup winners, and I'll be getting Man City tonic in the next 5 minutes.
Retaining it's a great achievement for Man City. It's a great achievement for Aston Villa. Love them or hate them, it's a great achievement to get to a cup final that gives us some hope for maybe 1 or 2 years in the future we could get there. But the goals came in 21 first half minutes. Aguero getting Man City off to a flyer before Rodri headed home. And it was a good header from Samata to pull one back following a John Stones error. But Man City holding on to the win. Yeah, I can't believe that it was this weekend last year that Kepa refused to come off the pitch.
Yeah, that was
how time flies.
Yeah, Mauricio Sarri is Chelsea manager, and
when he walked down towards the tunnel, I thought he was walking out of the job there and then. I thought, good on you. But then I thought he sort of lost his integrity a bit when he came back.
It did. I think that I know it's slightly off topic, but
yeah,
you look at what Lampard's doing. He's completely dropped Kepa, and he's had enough of him. Basically, with Sarri, it was kind of like, right, you're not following the instructions. I'll give you 1 game to prove that I'm the manager. Then he went straight back in. It was like, well, I don't know. He was never liked by Chelsea, was he?
No, it was difficult for him. But elsewhere today, in other matches, Everton drew at home 1-1 to Manchester United, a fixture that has been pretty dodgy for Manchester United of late. And then Wolves, so the second season in a row, go to Tottenham and win. So excellent achievement. Wolves now ahead of Tottenham in the league. They are now 6th. Goodness me, Wolverhampton Wanderers 6th. Sheffield United having a game in hand in 8th, just with a inferior goal difference over Tottenham in there. This season has thrown so many twists and turns, but as far as Newcastle are concerned, no change compared to what we're waiting at the start of the day. 14th place, 5 points off relegation, where Bournemouth are in 18th place. Don't even look like you want to say something.
There was a WhatsApp message.
Is there? But I'll tell you what, we will have a look at that, we will go over everything, and we will have a bit of a break. If you're listening on Nova Radio North East, here's some Lunch Money Lewis. Black and White Show live on Nova Radio Northeast 102.5 and the Newcastle Fans TV across the socials. Let's kick off this second part with one of the WhatsApp messages that's come through. Yes, he has left a name. It's called James. James has said, or has asked rather, do you feel that this is the last chance for Ashley to sell the club, in the sense that if we go down, that we won't come straight back up, and that would hurt both Ashley and the club in the long run? So Lee, I'll let you kick this one off.
I think if we get relegated, I don't think we'll sell it. Because it's devalued, isn't it?
It's not sort of, it might have hurt him financially in the past when we have been relegated, but he's still remained there.
I don't think he'll sell it in the Championship, because it'll be probably another 50 to 100 quid. 100 quid, I wish it was. 100 million off, 50 or 100 million knocked off the value, I feel. I think the priority for fans is in hope that we stay up. And then, look, I don't like talking about the takeover. You all know how I feel about it. I think it's all fake news everywhere, because there's so many journalists and stirring the pot and all that. But I think realistically, Newcastle fans just stay up and hope and pray something happens in the summer, but that's a long shot, isn't it?
So you feel that the prerogative will be stay as a Premier League club up until Ashley sells it at some point?
I think that's the only way, because we're in the chat. I mean, you might, if it comes to the point where he thinks, you know what, I'm sick of this, I'm walking out, but you'll have to take a massive cut. I know he bought the club for a lot less money than what he's asking, allegedly for 350 million, whatever the fee is, but that will significantly drop quite, and if he's happy to walk away, I can't say that at the minute.
Funnily enough, I've been keeping my close eye on all the comments that have come through on the live stream tonight, and I've noticed that several comments, not just a few, but several, have mentioned that they hope that we go down because it would get in the hope that it would get Ashley out of the club. Alex, what's your take on that?
Yeah, there's no way Ashley would be able to sell the club in the Championship. You can only sell the club two places: one in the Premier League, and two if we leave the Championship and go further down. As soon as it starts to cost him money to keep the lights on, he'll be away. Even if it's just taking a massive loss on what he wants. I mean, you know, I totally understand where people are coming from, because they just want rid of Mike Ashley. And, you know, how long is it now? 12 years? 12 seasons? Something like that?
Yeah, 2007.
You know, every year that there's a new TV deal, and if that continues to increase, the club just gets more and more expensive. And it's at the stage now where there's only a handful of people in the world who can afford and will have liquid cash up to 400 million quid. So I definitely think it's more likely to be sold if we're to be relegated. And I suppose if we spent a few years in the Championship, it would cost him a lot of money. But every time Ashley puts money in, our debt to him goes up. And you saw that at the end, between summer 2018, Mike Ashley took over £30 million out of the club. While other clubs were spending their money on footballers, good footballers, to make their teams better, ours took money out to reduce the debt to himself. And how long are we going to have to put up with that for while he's here every summer? So, yeah, I agree with you, Lee. I think staying up is imperative. I think we're far more likely to be sold as a Premier League club. But if it doesn't happen this time, I feel, with the people who are alleged to be back involved again for a second time, and we know that they put a concrete bid in the first time, then I wonder when it's going to be, if ever, in the near future.
Of course, it was just in the recent past that our very own Lee made a documentary about football ownership in the Northwest clubs. I believe you're making a similar documentary about
nice plug,
clubs
I like it.
As well. So yes, do check that out if you haven't already. Of course, there are several clubs like Macclesfield, Stockport, Bury, RIP of course, where arguably poor ownership has driven those clubs into the ground. It's a really good watch, and I'm looking forward to checking out the Northeast one as well.
Why is that, Rob? Was that because you play a part in that?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
You make sure you're free on Thursday, just remember. No, Wednesday.
I thought it was Wednesday.
Oh, it is Wednesday, keep you right.
Against, talking about Darlington. But yes, let's go back to tonight's Black and White show. So Alex, we'll turn to you. And now you run the True Faith fanzine. Could you tell us a bit about that, about what your part is in the True Faith?
Yeah, I'm the editor of True Faith. True Faith's been going well before I ran it. Started as a print fanzine in 1999 when, like a lot of clubs, Newcastle had quite a few print fanzines. And it was one of a really fine collection out there. Sadly, we're the only one left in print. I think 2013, Mick, who used to run it, took it out of print because of spiralling costs. But we brought it back at the start of last season to print, and we keep selling it with every issue. I really need to buy more copies. And it's just a voice for fans, a bit like what you guys are doing now. We don't have an editorial line. Anyone wants to submit an article on anything, we'll consider it to go on the website or the fanzine. We don't tell people what to think or what to write. If someone wants to write in that Mike Ashley's the best owner in the world, we might print it. But
You won't.
I think we would print it, and then we would also probably have a counter argument, counter article to those arguments, because it's about diversity of opinion. And we've got fans who write in from all over the world. We send copies out all over the world. It's £4 to have it posted to your house per issue, or you can buy it from Centrail, which is a central station, or M&M News at Haymarket for £2.50 a copy. Doesn't cost a fortune. It's just a labour of love for us. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't, if there are any budding business people out there, I would recommend not going into fanzines, because you don't make any money out of it, but we don't do it for any financial gain. We do it because we love the fact that there's something you can hold, something you can read. We used to sell it outside the ground, but the council were a bit funny about that, annoyingly,
I do remember, actually, when I was a kid going to the occasional game, I remember seeing some fanzine sellers.
Yeah,
It might have been True Faith.
Yeah, so...
It's not the big issue, is it?
So yeah, it's a football fanzine that exists for Newcastle fans. So check it out if you listen or watching. Would love to sell you some.
I listen to the podcast because I travel quite a bit going around the country. Obviously following Newcastle, and obviously Norman is one of the favourite, because he's based down London, isn't he?
Yeah.
With the proper broad Geordie accent.
We do the podcast as well. We've been doing that about 4 years. We're lucky enough that we've got a few hundred people pay for We Are a Patron. So we do one free podcast every single week, and then we do 4 to 5 extra shows behind a paywall, which, to be blunt, just funds us going to the games. Because we'll make sure we'll have someone at every single game home or away. Yeah. We had someone in China for pre-season. We had people at all the away games abroad last season as well. We had someone went to the away friendly last year, and that's only possible because we're lucky enough to have people who still, even though we haven't got loads to talk about in terms of positivity, Newcastle United in the performances. So yeah, the podcast is a big part of our lives, and much like yourselves, I assume takes a lot of time, doesn't it, behind the scenes to get things right. And we're lucky we've got 4 or 5 of us up here, and we've got 3 or 4 of us in London, and gives us a nice geographic spread across the country to talk about Newcastle United. And yeah, I mean, we've met some great people doing it and been to some great places. So I don't think we'll ever stop doing it.
Good listen.
It's definitely the best Newcastle podcast going, isn't it?
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, because podcast has kind of boomed really the last 2 to 3 years, hasn't it? Everyone seems to be starting to do them now. I know, obviously, there's the Pod on the Time, the Chronicle do theirs. There's what's the Football Ramble or something like that.
BBC Sounds.
There's loads that are out there. So I do actually like, because it's more you just talk about anything, and I like that as well. And you have it's not just 2 people. There's a group of years in it all the time as well. So it's good listening. I recommend it.
Thank you.
Excellent. So yes, fanzine, podcasts, you name it, get yourself onto the True Faith website, and everything will go from there. So let's go back onto the show here. So Strawberry Place has been under development. Of course, a few months ago it was in the news that Mike Ashley sold the land behind the back of the Gallagher End, which meant that we will be unable to expand St James's Park as far as the future is concerned. Now, recently, I've noticed, I've done a bit of digging on this, recently clubs have been buying the area surrounding their stadium so that they can expand when they're ready. I'm sure you can see on your screen right now the area that I'm talking about, the Metro car park, or whatever you want to call it. And Lee, you saw trees getting cut down in that area, seemingly in readiness for this development to be built.
It seems that way, doesn't it? I mean, why is the trees getting cut down? So yeah, you would think that's probably the first stages of it. We've talked about it quite a lot. Me and Kyle in particular feel passionate about it. I think for me, I'm only going to speak on behalf of me. There's a few reasons why. Obviously, the view is one of them. Some people think it's important, some people it isn't. For me, coming over the Redshift as a child, the first thing I saw was the stadium popping out. Still do to some extent. I know there's a building is going to be one of the... in fact, it's going to be the tallest that is still being developed. It's like a big block as you come over the Redshift.
You've got to tune your eyes now to it, haven't you?
Say again?
You got to when you come over the Red Hugh Bridge, you've got to tune your eyes to try and find it.
And for me, it's like it's more of a pride thing. It's like that's your heartbeat of the city. Look, when you're inside the ground, you forget about it. You look inside and think, right, we've got a magnificent stadium. Yes, I know it's plastered with stickers all over the place, but outside, it's a sense of feeling belonging. It's the cathedral on your hill, and obviously we're all football mad around this table. St James's Park is the one place where you escape your demons or your argument with the missus or whatever you go to football. Maybe it's a social event. That's one aspect, but the other side is then if we were to ever go on and become this bigger club, I know we're a big club, but we're not as big as, there's still 7, 8, 9 clubs bigger than us in the Premier League. We cannot expand the Gallagher because there's obviously buildings going up, offices, students. I know Nora's got involved, and Alex will touch upon this in a minute. She wants, obviously, the metro can't be expanded out to the Western City, which needs it. I think the Metro Centre needs the metro as well, because that will, again, more income for both cities, for Gateshead and Newcastle. It spirals because we can't touch the East Stand at the minute because of the list of buildings. So that's personally my 2 reasons.
Interesting. And I noticed that Newcastle United Supporters Trust, Greg Tomlinson, ahead of the AGM this week, said in his video, if we were here in 2017, I feel we would have made a tangible difference to that. And of course, he's referring to N.U.S.T unable to block the planning permission for the development. Could you maybe give us a few more details on that front, Alex?
Yeah, so I think it's important to say that the development of the land by the people who are going to development, they aren't the issue here. They're not they aren't the problem. And what they're going to develop will probably be good for Newcastle. A 4-star hotel, some restaurants. So it's not a case of we'll have an issue with those people and their applications for development. Our main issue is that land was leased by Nexus, who own the Metro, to Newcastle United for 99 years. And our owner, in 2010 or whenever he did it, thought, actually, I'll buy that. And paid, well, supposedly, we haven't got any evidence if the money's been paid, but let's pretend it has for a second. And paid the club, and he owned that, and then he sold it on for personal profit. So even if you couldn't, and I don't have cast iron answers, the last... I was going to say archaeologist, I don't mean that. The last architect report for expanding the stadium was commissioned by Freddie Shepherd, I think, in 2006, and who knows what's changed since then. Obviously, you've got the road, which is an issue. There is a school of thought that says you could still expand the Gallagher now, even without that land. That land was purchased by Freddie Shepherd for the benefit of Newcastle United. The land was taken out of the club by Mike Ashley for his own personal benefit. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's a £4 million profit was made, personal profit, and for a billionaire, and it's not that relevant, the sum, but what difference will that make to Mike Ashley's life? What material difference? Even if the club didn't want to expand the stadium, and I actually think we could sell a lot more tickets if we were remotely successful, and I'm not talking about winning the league or Champions League, if we were competing in the top end of the league and the cup runs. You saw that in the Championship, selling out every single week in the Division 2. That land could have been developed by the football club. It could have been a museum. It could have been a club restaurant. It could have been a club hotel. It could have been anything because the land was controlled and the lease was owned by Newcastle United. And we at the Supporters Trust, we tried to block the planning permission of what was planned, although we met with the developers and we did say to them, listen, you're not the issue here. That land has a material benefit to the city, and the football club is so important to this city. And we failed, unfortunately, to stop that. And it was city councillors voted, and we understand why they voted in favour of it. But ultimately, Strawberry Place, and I think long time after Ashley's gone, a long time after he's gone, 30 years' time, I hope that supporters still remember what he did with the land at Strawberry Place, because that is asset stripping. And you're quite right in what you said there, Rob, that other clubs are actually buying land around their stadium to expand, and we're selling ours, and that tells you everything you need to know about the bloke that owns the club, unfortunately.
Bit of a defeatist attitude there from Mike Ashley, potentially. And so, N.U.S.T, however, are working on renewing the council licence of St James's Park, now this is official wording, an asset of community value. Of course, that's council wording, not mine. So what does an asset of community value really mean, and what would it mean for the stadium if they were to renew that licence?
It's a it's something I don't think this would ever happen because it costs money to do this. If for example, the owner or any owner for that matter wanted to sell St James's Park, knock it down and build flats, and that he would need the permission of the Freemen of the City. So he couldn't do it realistically. So we're just making sure that. So and that's just only one example. We're just making sure that there's a layer of protection there against the ground. But I have to say, we'll have absolutely no information that was ever gonna on the cards are going to happen. I don't think he would do it because it would cost too much to build another stadium, not because he wouldn't do it. But unless we went and played a Gateshead or something. But that's just making sure that football ground is protected by other people than just the owners of the football club.
What's the chances, Alex, of long term just thinking, right, let's just move the stadium? Because there's more and more restrictions around the ground when this happens.
Where would you move it to, do you think?
Could he go to Toomore?
No, you couldn't, because that's protected by the Freedom of the City. There's no way you could build on the top of that.
So can he do that?
Unless, I suppose you could purchase it, but it would cost you so much money just to purchase the land, never mind build the stadium. You could argue where the Metro Radio Arena is, down there's a lot of derelict land. Yeah. It's still within the city boundary, but I think your listeners might be able to tell you, I think that would be an unpopular move with a lot of fans who have an attachment and a connection to St James's Park. You look at Tottenham, basically knocked down their ground, built on top of the existing ground just so still in White Hart Lane, which is far better than what West Ham have done. We don't have Wembley Stadium, unfortunately, on my doorstep in North London. For a comparable stadium, we'd have to go to Sunderland, but I'd rather go to Glasgow or Edinburgh than play home games at the Stadium of Light.
Do we need to, though? I think the question is, do we need a new ground? I personally think, I've been to a lot of grounds, I've been to a lot of away days. I think the fact that the ground, it's not, it needs TLC, and the club have tried to improve that in the last 12 months when the guy wasn't happy and he was really upset and basically gone, I do a bit of work, I do try and make it a bit better every now and then, but you can tell in the last 12 months that the little thing, the aesthetic things that you can see at the front of the ground, but the ground it's in the heart of the city, right next to everything. Surely, why would you want to move all that? Even if you moved it, say, a couple of miles, just to maybe make it a little bit bigger, there's still, like Alex has mentioned before, you could still get an increased capacity with the Gallagher as well, and it's not the end of the world at the minute. The fact that we can't even sell out against teams like Man United and Man City this season shows that the club at the minute isn't in the right place to increase their attendance and increase their capacity.
I think also, and then I'll say for Kyle, and I'm sure Kyle will back us on this, is Kyle doesn't want the Bobby Robson Memorial being moved because it's got a sentimental value to him. And the plans was to move that up next to behind the 9 bar, wasn't it, as far as I'm aware? And that's got a bit of sentimental value for people, not just Bobby Robson, people who've lost people because of obviously the horrible thing that is cancer. So that's another thing I'll say on that behalf of Kyle.
Excellent. And so I've noticed, just on a bit of a side note from that, I've noticed Borussia Mönchengladbach Stadium, Borussia Park. It's a fairly new stadium, about 13 years old, 12, 13 years old. And that stadium is right out in the sticks. It's about 52,000. It's about the same size as St James's, and it's right in the sticks because they wanted to, have a view of expanding it should they grow in the future. But let's have a look at some of the comments coming in. Swift says, "I don't really care about a major capacity expansion, but a better view from the top of the Gallagher would be better." I think, maybe the top of the Leazes might be better.
Yeah, I think if you could, we can't at the minute, and Lee's mentioned obviously with the East Stand, or I might be nice to apologise between who it was, about obviously the listed buildings on the East Stand. If you could do the whole ground as what the Leazes and the Milburn is, that ground would be absolutely fantastic, and you would probably get maybe roughly off the top of my head, maybe somewhere between 65 to 70,000. But the problem I've got at the minute is that as much as our fan base is amazing, would we sell out 65,000, 70,000 seat stadium? I personally think our maximum is about 60 to 62. Because you're basically saying
not if we're winning games, or wouldn't.
If we're winning games, maybe, but even for winning games, Lee, I don't think you could get more than an extra 10,000 at the very most as well. Because let's
put it in perspective. If we were having you on, and this is, I know it's a long way off.
Yeah.
The first thing you would do is you would reduce the tickets, which will bring people back. And I think not just that, the real boycotters who said, "No, that's enough for me," they would come back. and that's already 5,000 people straight away. I think realistically, I think you could, if, and this is a big if we had a new vision, a new ownership, it would just lift the whole area, the mood of fans.
Can I ask a question to Alex? Actually, what did the trust make of the free season ticket or the free 10-game season ticket scheme that the club did? Because it was controversial to say the least, but all that the fans took the seats. It was a great success from the club's point of view. How did you see it, and how did the N.U.S.T see that scheme?
I think, we have a diverse board of people in terms of opinions, so not everyone agrees with me on it, but I think it's always a positive when football is affordable for some people, and free is definitely affordable. And I work in Blythe, and I went into work that morning, and the whole office was buzzing because people, and everyone approaches football differently, but some people, if you look at the price of tickets now, I think the cheapest ticket on site was 38 quid. If you want to go with your friend or your husband or wife, you want to take your 2 kids, and you've got to get the bus or taxis from Blythe, and there's food, it's like £150, £200 a day. And to get that tickets free, if someone could go and get 4 free tickets, that's really positive. On the other hand, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that Newcastle United have had to give up free tickets just to fill the ground. And it's
just need a Happy Meal to go with it.
And if there is any greater demonstration of the damage done by the ownership to the fan base, this is it. So it's not the worst thing they've ever done. They've done plenty worse than that. And for me, it was almost the first time they acknowledged that they weren't very popular. That actually we have to do something here to try and bring people back. I don't think it'll help them whatsoever in selling those tickets next season. I don't think those people who have come are going to be like, oh, this is class, I'll fork out 600 quid next year. It's just not going to happen. So we're going to have the exact same problem in August this year.
I think another issue as well, and sorry to cut you off, but
That's okay.
You talk about the TV deal. In the last 2 TV deals, one was just over £5 billion and one was just under £5 billion. And then you've got and that's just in the UK, and you've got your international rights, TV rights as well.
That's gone up.
Which is going to go up, of course, if it hasn't already. Surely clubs now, and you look, I'm trying to think which one. I think West Ham might have done it when they first went into the London thing. They've made it very, very affordable for West Ham fans. But Newcastle, what do people talk about when it comes to Newcastle? What's one of the biggest things? Their fans. The fact that they can turn in and have 52,000. And this is the first season where, before this scheme was put in place, that fans had had enough. Fans had enough. And I don't know. I generally do think they need to change the pricing strategy massively, because I just had my letter come through from your season ticket. It's exactly the same price. Exactly the same. So I don't think it'll change, but why should it go up when you appoint a manager who was very underwhelming, to say the least?
And that's the thing. I want tickets to be as cheap as possible, but I understand that in order to compete with our peers in the Premier League who also have expensive tickets, we might have to pay the same. The issue we've got is, why is Matty Longstaff not got a new contract? Why is Sean Longstaff? What are those two paid between them? Half of what? Well, probably a quarter of what John Joe Shelby's on. It's not the money that we'll put into the club. And I'll say it again, £30 million of it went out to Mike Ashley last summer. So I could live with it a lot better if the money that we were all paying as season ticket holders was going only on new players. And by the way, the new players weren't Joe Linton, because whoever scouted him needs sacked. So yeah, I want football. I don't think it should necessarily come from the football club. I think the Premier League or the FA should step in, like they've done with the away tickets, and say £30 cap, £25 cap for every Premier League club. And if you want to have corporate and you want to have that, fine.
Did you see what Man United charged Wolves in the League Cup?
Yeah, scandalous.
Was it 60 quid or something? 55, 60 quid?
Yeah, because
for a League Cup game.
Because it wasn't the FA, because it wasn't the Premier League. And
yeah.
But I think that when it first got announced that there was going to be a £30 cap on it, and when the Premier League clubs voted, it was your clubs like Manchester City and Chelsea who wanted to keep the prices at £50. For away fans, and how many times do we go to Manchester City and Chelsea and get even a draw, never mind a win? Especially in recent years, even when Manchester City were poor.
Well, Man City can't even fill the ground.
Exactly, and that it's just embarrassing. But we could talk all night on this.
Yeah, we certainly can, especially with Johnny in the house. But yes, other comments coming in. Jack Burns says, to be honest, expanding the stadium is not really a massive concern. The thing that needs a change is maybe a refurbishment. That we have he does think that we have a big enough stadium, and Burn Courtable says Strawberry Place forever. And so, to finish off this section, N.U.S.T have an upcoming meeting with Lee Charnley, I understand, Alex. But where does N.U.S.T go from here? You can tell I'm tired, I'm starting to use abbreviations now.
That's fine. We just need as many fans as possible to join. Like I said, it's only a quid. You get a vote, you get a say. We stay in touch with people regularly. We want to get answers from the football club for our members, and I don't see those answers going to come from from anywhere else. If you remember, before we meet with Charlie, you'll be able to email us. Yeah, we're going to be able to ask him 9,000 questions. No, but a lot of the questions will be the same, and we'll be able to collate what we think members want to hear. So join us. Let us get answers for you from the football club. We also have some pretty big fan plans on supporter ownership, but can't say any more at this moment in time.
Excellent. So thank you very much for that, Alex. And so yes, we will go and have a little bit of a break now. And when we come back, we'll be reviewing yesterday's game against Burnley. So don't go anywhere. we're back. We're back live on Nova Radio Northeast. If you were listening on there, had a bit of Michael Jackson. Absolutely love One Day in Your Life. And so, let's start off with this part 3 with a WhatsApp message that came in just before we went to a break, saying, just want to say I 100% agree with Lee, saying about the building on the land around St James's Park. Even people who don't like football to have to admit that St James's Park is a big part of our identity as a city. So yes, a lot that we talked about in that last part. But yes.
Thanks, Mum.
Let's move on now to part 3. Yesterday's goalless draw at the hands of Burnley. It's still quite a long while since they last came away with a win at St James's Park. But yes, disappointing, frustrating, whatever you want to call it, 0-0 draw against the Clarets yesterday, Sean Dyche's side. Johnny, would you say that that's 1 point gained or 2 points dropped?
On the balance of play, 2 points dropped. I think Alex touched about it on one of the first questions we had. Newcastle were the better team yesterday. Newcastle did have chances. However, were they chances that Nick Pope has had to make save after save after save after save? No. But the formation change helped Newcastle. But it was great to see the likes of Dwight Gale back in the team. I thought he was. I think Lee said it on the final word. It was fresh. He was fresh, and he made a massive difference. But again, no disrespect to Burnley. The games like this, considering the position we're at, we have to be winning games like this if we want to be comfortable in staying in the Premier League. And we did miss a trick yesterday by not scoring. But did Burnley really look like scoring yesterday? They had 1 or 2 efforts, but again, I don't think Martin Bradford's had to make a save. I didn't watch much of the day last night, but I can imagine it being last.
And well, during the break, I noticed there was a comment coming in that came in by Kenny Wilshire saying there's a pun coming. And luckily, for everyone, no, I don't have a pun. I don't have one in mind. I've not set one up. I'm not presenting. I wanted to keep this as professional as possible. So no, there is no pun coming unless there's an unintentional one. And so Burnley were in good form going into this weekend's game. And there's a lot to talk about here with the change of formation. So Lee, the floor is yours. What did you make of the formation change?
I was surprised about Alan Saint-Maximin, but obviously learning afterwards he had something wrong with his tight hamstring, but we didn't know that when we were filming. It's positive. A lot of fans have been crying out for a formation change. Bruce has done that. Fought the back. I think Fernandes and Lascelles on paper I say Fernandes is probably one of the better defenders this season. Johnny's looking at me because we've got a disagreement on that.
It's not that. This is my issue. We know Federico Fernandes is out of contract at the end of the season, and he's openly admitted this week that he's not had contract negotiations or he's not even been offered a new deal. So, in normal circumstances, let's say normal when it comes to Newcastle United, surely you either open contract negotiations with him if he's part of your plans, or you play a player that is part of your future plans. And at the minute, if you're looking at contracts alone, Jamal Lascelles, Fabian Schär and Florian Lejeune are better candidates for that. But I do get your point in terms of form. Fernandes has played a majority of the games, and I'm not saying he has played bad. I just think maybe Florian Lejeune, in my opinion, is a better defender. But is he fully fit? Who knows?
But going to your question though, Rob, I was happy to see Hayden, Shelby back in the midfield. I think that's the strongest two currently on form. Matty, obviously, why is he not even on the bench? We talked about that. It's a strange one. It was different. It was good to see Almiron in that 10. I think he look a lot better there. You can bring the ball forward. Did he do too much in the final third? No, not really. As Johnny said, a lot of the shots were almost straight at Pope. We had a couple of Richie efforts which just went wide, but it was better from Newcastle. The tempo was better. Is that the way forward? We'll see against West Brom. Do we play that way? Be interesting because West Brom, I know they're in the Championship at the top of the league. Despite their defeat on the weekend, we're playing against a team that are winning games, which is I'm a little bit worried about.
And so we've had a WhatsApp message come in from Steve. How can we create 21 chances, according to Bruce, and look so unlikely to score? What is going on in training What are the instructions being given out? I guess that's all the question. The answer to that question would be trying to see what happens in training, I guess. But there was certainly a huge difference yesterday, wasn't there, Alex? In terms of we certainly looked the most likely to score. Burnley just did not look like they were going to get into the game at all.
No, I think Burnley, you could tell Burnley were in good form at the start of the game. Vidra and Rodriguez were popping it off to each other, one-touch football, and you could tell they were playing some really confident stuff. To our credit, Burnley got deeper and deeper and deeper and looked less bothered about winning the game the longer the game went on. And I think to touch on the comment that you just had in there, the WhatsApp message, I couldn't see what the players or management had done the week between Arsenal and Palace. It was almost like they're just taking a week off and more of the same. Whereas yesterday, you could tell they've been working on stuff. And I think as well, you've got to give credit to the manager, and I've slated him a lot this season for being bold enough to change the formation. I mean, it wasn't working. Would have just got beat if we played the same formation yesterday. But bear in mind, you've got Javier Manquillo, hardly played any football. John Joe Shelby, hardly played any football. Dwight Gale, hardly played any football. Joe Linton playing on the left. We were still a better side, and I think those three players I've just mentioned now had really good games. So, they can all improve. Shelby infuriates at times, but the amount of forward passes he makes that are very, very positive. The amount of times he finds players' feet, particularly in the opponent's half of the pitch, is really positive. Those players you'd hope will get better by playing more football. I think, like you said, Johnny, I think Dwight Gale was miles better than Joe Linton, and he didn't really come that close to scoring. He had that great overhead kick, but Joe Linton is so bad up front, it's almost like a negative to the team. Certainly was at us. So there were positives to take. I left the ground really frustrated, and to the point about 21 shots. Yeah, a lot of them are from outside of the box, but fair play to Burnley. They really throw themselves in front of the ball. They blocked a lot of shots. I think Dwight Gale in the first half. Phil Bardsley throws himself in the way. I think that was going in. Matt Ritchie shot in the second half. That was inches from being an absolute wonder goal. So I get it. It's March now, and we still can't score. But that was one of the few times this season I've left a game thinking they've got away with it there, not we've got away with it here.
And looking at the comments, Paul Kinton says we've only lost 3 times at home in the Premier League this season. That is not bad. Geordie says Bruce is clueless. If the fans weren't chanting for ASM, he would not have made a sub at 0-0.
Question for you all though.
Yeah, sure.
ASM being sub, do you reckon Joe Linton would have played out on the left? Because if ASM starts, then Joe Linton goes back up top, wouldn't he? And Gale wouldn't play.
No,
Would you seriously drop Joe Linton?
Well, yesterday.
If ASM played, because it's either him or Gale.
I think he would have dropped him.
Yeah, I do as well. I think it's getting to the stage now where you can defend him, you can defend him, but we're in a business like the Premier League where you can't wait much more. We've given him 3/4 of the season, and he's only scored 1 Premier League goal and a couple of goals against League One opposition. We're at a stage now where he needs to start performing in the Premier League. And hands up, who thinks Joe Linton's the best left winger in this club? Hands up, who thinks Joe Linton's the best striker at this football club? That answer. Is he better?
Rob's going to debate that here.
Is he better?
Right, I'm thinking about it.
Right, who's he better than Dwight Gale? Right,
Yeah, I do.
Right, does anybody else think he's better than Dwight Gale?
Dwight Gale needs a run of games to answer that question. I think.
Dwight Gale's a 1 in 3
Yeah.
Premier League striker to a 1 in 5 Premier League striker at the minute. Joe Linton's 1 in 25.
Thing is, Joe Linton, you proved last season with Hoffenheim that he can do it at a top level. Gale, on the other hand, is yet to really do that. Gale is one of those players. He's too good for the Championship, not quite good enough to make that all-important step up to the Premier League.
But what have we seen of Joe Linton this season where you can go, yeah.
What did Joe Linton get last season? 6 league goals and 2 in the Cups. And I agree with you. And you can tell he's got a really good touch. You can tell he's a good footballer. But there is only... I think he needs a loan, or he needs serious time on the bench to for example, Tuesday's a great opportunity. So hopefully we're winning 2-0 in the 70th minute. That's a great opportunity for Joe Linton to come on from the bench, no pressure, maybe bag himself a goal. Starting him in games at the minute just seems cruel on him.
What do you think this formation change would mean for Joe Linton? Because obviously in the previous formation that we've been using, it's clearly not got the best out of him, Lee.
Possibly, but this formation change might get the best out of Almiron.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's more priority because Almiron, and Fordy's touched upon this as well, is that when Alan Saint-Maximin plays, Almiron doesn't hit the heights for whatever reason. Alan Saint-Maximin was back on the bench, and for me, going forward, Almiron looked very bright. Didn't have any end product, but he was picking the ball up, he was spinning players. So if you can play him in the 10 in this formation, which he wants to play, he plays there for his country, he's phenomenal for his country. In particular, Copa America, we touched upon that last year. So for me, I would probably find a place for Almiron first, Joe Linton later.
So, where do we go with this formation going forward, Johnny? Do you think this is an opportunity to trial and error on a few different formations, see what is a good fit, or do you think that we should persevere with this one, see where it gets us?
I think we have to persevere with it because what were the other options? 4-3-3. Is he really going to do it?
Yeah. People have come up with their suggestions in the comments. From 3, it's going a long way up now. Joe Holman says Matty, John Joe Hayden as a middle 3, then ASN Gale and Miggy as a front 3. Do you think that can work?
I think Matty deserves a lot more chances. I think he gives you an energy in the midfield. He's not the finished article by any stretch, but if he can work with the likes of Isaac Hayden and John Joe Shelby, I think that will benefit him hugely. I think the fact that he wasn't even on the bench yesterday, I think that has a lot to do with his contract situation. It really does. I think when he signs a contract, he'll be getting more of a chance at Newcastle United, simple as that. However, going back on your question of the formation, I did like the formation. I thought the best bit of the formation was it was 4 at the back. I think that extra centre-half it works for certain games, like we've got Manchester City away. I would not be against playing 5 at the back against Manchester City. However, 5 at the back against Norwich City, no, not for me. I think
Oxford or Rochdale.
Or Oxford or Rochdale. I think he had to go 4 at the back. I think in time it'll help the likes of Danny Rose if he played 4 at the back in time. I think the problem is we haven't got a good right back at the football club. I don't think Manquillo, I was going to say Yedlin or Kraft are good enough. So until we get that sorted, then we'll get more joy out that right hand side. But for me, 4 at the back has to be, and then you can, depending on who you're playing or depending on how you set up.
Wouldn't it be just more easier if you just play the best players in their best formation?
Yeah.
Because 4-3-3 will not work for Almiron hovering on that right again.
No, I think Almiron is better in the middle, and we've seen that because he gets into spaces where nobody else will get into space. And there's certain passes you're going, oh, there's Mickey, and now he's running. The problem was when he was running, nobody was with him. Gale was making the odd movement. But
that's the problem we've got with Saint-Maximin, because he's too quick, because we're so deep in this wing-back system that when we're on the counter, it's him against 4 all the time. And then when he gets to the box, there's no one there.
It's frustrating, but when you look at ASM and Almiron, the potential that both of those players have got is unbelievable. But when you look at their numbers, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what Alex thinks, but what have you made of everyone's been jumping on the ASM bandwagon about the fact that he's talking to people, talking to fans on social media. He's a crowd favourite. He's talking to fans on social media, but I don't know about yourself, Alex. I feel like he's got to do more. He's got to perform a lot better in terms of end product.
I think he's been one of the best players this season, if not the best player this season, comfortably. I think, to be fair to him, he comes on yesterday and immediately 3 Burnley players just stick themselves on him, and that's the problem. And the good thing about that is it should create space for other players. But with the formation that we've been playing, I totally agree with you, that most of the rest of the team are playing defensively, means that the space that's created from him attracting so many defenders hasn't been utilised properly. And Lee, you're spot on with Almiron playing through the middle. Burnley were terrified of him yesterday. Yeah. He's wasted on the wing. So I think Almiron could really benefit from ASM if they link up a little bit more in the middle of the pitch. You're right though, but this is the thing, isn't it? If he scored more goals, he wouldn't be playing for Newcastle. If he created more chances, he wouldn't be playing here. He'd be playing for one of the top 6 sides, and he might well. He's still young, 22, whatever, and he still might well do that. But to credit to him, he seems willing to engage with the local community. He seems like a really nice guy. So does Steve Brewster say. So he doesn't get off, but he shoulders the burden and the responsibility and the pressure of having to drag the team quite well. I think a lot of players around his age would crumble with that kind of pressure, and he seems like a really mentally strong player. And I think with our formation change, I think John Joe Shelby's crucial in this formation. I think if you go back to Bentaleb and Longstaff, who played at Palace, the wide players don't get the ball, the forward players don't get the ball quickly, they don't get the ball to feet. Hayden and Bentaleb against Palace kept going backwards. It was infuriating. Because once you go back to the cells, he goes back to Dubravka, who kicks it long, and we don't win the high ball. So, yeah, I'm a big ASM fan. I think his injury problems this season might mean he's here next season. Whereas if he played the full season, and to say he got 7 Premier League goals, I think he'd be away for 40 million.
Certainly worth a shout. But so for this formation, of course, it appears like we are more likely creating more means that the increased likelihood that we will get more goals in the near future. But Johnny, would you take that gamble knowing that our defence is potentially weaker with this formation change?
When you look at the next few games though, Rob,
Southampton away, West Brom away,
Sheffield United, Villa.
West Ham's in April, yeah.
They don't scare you. They don't like.
And I think you only need 2 wins and you're safe.
2 wins and you're safe. But even Sheffield United, no disrespect to Sheffield United, they've done very, very well this season. But they don't scare me. They don't scare me as a Man City or a Liverpool or a Chelsea to an extent. The games where you can get points, I can see us getting something against Southampton. Southampton aren't the best team I've seen in this season, but look, he might change it. I don't think he will. I think he's been put under so much pressure, has Steve Bruce, to change the formation, and now he's done it to almost prove a point to say I can do it. He's going to have to stick with it. He's kind of almost got no choice, especially in the FA Cup game, which I know is in part 4. He's got to stick with it there. But I do get your point defensively, but unless you're playing Man City away or one of the top 6, then you can understand it. I can completely understand if we play Man City and he goes to 5 at the back, because he doesn't want to get battered. He wants to try and get either a point or, let's be brutally honest, at worst a 2-0 defeat, because it doesn't look too bad. But it depends on who you play. But in terms of teams that are in and around us, we should not be playing 5 at the back.
So Lee touched upon it there, 2 wins and we're safe. We are 8 points off that 40-point mark with 10 games remaining. Of course, Norwich, less than 48 hours ago, only just surpassed the 20-point mark. And yes, so it is very interesting. Where do you see the bulk of the points coming from? Johnny, what time frame would you say? By what point in the season would you say that we're safe? So it could be Easter, for example.
Well, by Easter, if you take after the West Ham game, or the last few games after West Ham, on Man City, Watford, Tottenham, Brighton and Liverpool, we've got to be more or less safe by the time we go to Man City by the look of it, because the games we've got on paper now are winnable games. The likes of your Aston Villas, your West Hams, your Southamptons, your Sheffield United, even to an extent. Those are the games, especially a lot of them are at home as well, and we need to try and get some sort of atmosphere back at St James's, because you look at the table now, we're 5 points above Bournemouth and Watford. Villa, obviously not playing this week, have got themselves at the 19th. I think we'll be safe, and I do think we'll stay, but I think we'll be safe before the Tottenham game. I don't know when, but I think we'll be safe before May comes about, but it's not going to be pretty.
Playing ugly, in other words.
Definitely.
Okay, so is Gale the way forward, Alex? Do you think, of course, as an idea of do we play Gale or Joe Linton up front, is Gale the way forward? Can he take the club to safety for this season at least? Would you like to see him in a Newcastle shirt next season, perhaps?
Yeah, I don't see why not for next season. I would like to sign a much better striker and him potentially play from the bench. But yeah, for me, I thought he had a good game yesterday. Remember, he's not kicked a ball, I think, since Boxing Day. And he came on at Palace last week actually, but he's not match fit. I think John Joe and Dwight Gale have a really good partnership. You see Shelby playing lots of balls over the top, and whilst Gale doesn't always collect the ball, at least you make the defender defend. He heads it out for a throw-in, or you try and win the second ball, or Gale is actually quite good aerially. I think at the minute, out of the options we've got, he has to start every single game. The big issue with Dwight Gale is injuries. How long is he reliable? How long is he going to play? He goes back to West Brom on Tuesday, where he got 32 goals or something last season, so he knows that ground very well. But yeah, for me, Dwight's got to start.
With that, Alex, you mentioned already, the first thing Shelby does is look up.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously Bentaleb Hayden at Palace. I mean, that was frustrating going all the way down there. And Shelby picks the ball up, he's looking for runners already. Joe Linton doesn't run because he's quite static, he's a big lad, he wants to hold it up. Whereas Gale moves it and you're right, it created a lot of space. Yes, we didn't score, but it was much better. But Shelby, I mean, a lot of people think that Shelby shouldn't be in that side. He has to be in that side. People need the heads checked if they didn't want Shelby in that lineup. They've got to be.
Top goal scorer.
Yeah.
Not just that, and yeah, he's top scorer, but what he does, the only criticism I've got of Shelby is I just don't like it when he picks it off a defender. That's my only slight criticism. Get 10 yards further forward, then play it.
Yeah. But he's got it in his locker to take the ball off the defender and make that pass. So sometimes it is beneficial, but
not all the time.
It's not. But has he got the players further forward to, capitalise
He
on
needs
this?
runners for that.
Exactly.
Joe Litton's not a runner.
And so let's bring this part to a close by hearing what Steve Bruce had to say on yesterday's draw against Burnley.
Yeah, I was pleased with some aspects. Look, the clean sheet. When you change shape, you're always worried that the defensive stability that we have had remains, and we pride ourselves on the fact that, especially here at home, we've had 20 attempts, I think, which is far more than we've had before. And to be fair to Burnley as well, the number of times they got a block in or a deflection or a challenge, you have to say well done to them too for the defensive show they put on. But there was bits of it I was pleased. Room for improvement, of course, like always, but when you change shape and you change in a certain way, then but I certainly thought that we were more of a threat and looked like scoring more of a goal. And I've said all along, that's why we've changed shape. All we can do is have 21 attempts. You don't often get that in the Premier League, I assure you. So, and we have to take one, and there lies our problem, so we have to just keep bashing away at it and hopefully we can improve it. Well, I certainly thought he's comfortable in the position, as what we've seen before. Certainly to a side suits him. I think he played a lot there in Germany and he's comfortable there. And I was particularly pleased for Dwight too. He hasn't been able to really play for the past 7 months, and I thought he gave them a threat. And I think Almiron's best position is off the front. And he did okay as well without scoring a goal. Listen, the crowd have been here since we've been here in front of 52,000. I think they understand that there's no lack of effort or desire. That little bit of quality in the final third is ultimately missing for us, but we've just got to keep bashing away. And the support here is, as I've said many times, unique. And you can only thank them for the way they stay with the team. But I think they probably enjoy watching the team better today than they have done. Premier League is so difficult, and if you look at all the teams at the bottom, to win 6 or 7, 8, that's why we're in the bottom half of the Premier League. I'm still quietly confident we'll get there, and we all wanted to do it quickly. We've got 10 games left, all to play for. 5 here. I'm aware of it. The reason why we changed, the only thing a coach can do is change personnel, change shape. So it has been our Achilles heel in that respect. So I can't sit here and defend it. That's what we are. But I was pleased with 20 attempts today. We looked more of a goal threat. And as I said, Burnley, the block on Dwight Gale's one and the block towards the end, they were very good at it.
Thoughts of Steve Bruce in his press conference yesterday after the draw. Right, coming up after this break is the final half hour of the show. We will be previewing what is arguably Newcastle United's biggest game of the season away at the Hawthorns against West Bromwich Albion in the 5th round of the FA Cup. Of course, Newcastle United have not reached this stage of the FA Cup since Mike Ashley arrived at the club. So yes, we'll be previewing that. Exciting times, don't go anywhere. thank you very much for rejoining us here on the Black and White Show. We have 26 minutes and 38 seconds exactly left of tonight's version of the Black and White Show. And so for the final half hour, or 26 minutes and 30 seconds, we'll be previewing West Brom away. I've had quite a few messages saying good on the lads, good luck, safe travels down to those who are travelling to West Brom. Of course, Lee, Johnny, you're going to be there. Alex, will you be there?
Yes, I'm going, yeah.
Good. I'm commentating at York, so that leaves me as the odd one out.
Priorities.
Tell you what, Johnny, do you want to present this last bit and I'll just leave? Yeah? No, I'm staying put. But let's start this as we usually do with a few WhatsApp messages. We've had one come in saying, will a cup defeat on Tuesday affect morale of the squad and drag us deeper into the Premier League relegation scrap, and will Muto ever get a chance? Johnny, the floor is yours on this one.
I think this is the biggest game of the season. We've just been talking off air about this, and if Newcastle get into a quarter final of an FA Cup and potentially one game away from Wembley, the morale will be lifted, and everyone will be looking forward to that FA Cup quarter final game if it happens. It's a big if as well, because West Brom, top of the Championship, are a good team. But if we do lose this game, and it's a fair question, will it drag us deep into a relegation scrap? I think we're already in a relegation scrap, so let's be brutally honest with Watford's results. No one expected Watford to get 3 points yesterday. No one with respect expected Bournemouth to get a point. I think Chelsea were big favourites to win that game. So it has cut the gap, and 5 points. I've always said Watford will be fine this season. So I think if you finish above Watford this season, I think you stay up. I really do. Look, relegation is the biggest thing for this football club. If we get relegated for a third time in 15 years, we could be relegated 3 times in 15 years. That will have a massive impact on us going forward, because it's another 15 steps backwards again.
Interesting, very, very interesting. And Alex, you're a West Brom fan. Well, if you're a West Brom fan, I'm not saying you are. Sorry, bad choice of words. If you're a West Brom fan, you're 1 point clear at the top of the Championship. You're 5 points ahead of third place Fulham. Lost at home to Wigan yesterday, so that was cause for concern. What are your thoughts going in? Well, what would you think as a West Brom fan going into Tuesday night's game? Would you be more preoccupied with the Championship, trying to get back in the Premier League, or would you see this FA Cup tie as a bit of a free hit, if you like?
I think looking at the ticket sales, I think West Brom have sold less than half their tickets, so that probably tells you a lot about where this lies in the priority of West Brom fans. They are very much concentrating on getting back to the Premier League. Having said that, if I go back to when we were in the Championship, we had a really good cup run and got to the quarterfinals of the League Cup. I remember travelling down to Oxford back then, and we lost 3-0, and Newcastle fans were very unhappy. So I think if you're a side like West Brom, who are used to winning games, used to playing well, used to scoring goals, 64 goals this season, you kind of almost expect to win every game. But yeah, promotion's got to be the goal for them. And you're spot on yesterday, referencing that terrible result at home to Lodi Wigan. I did a little bit of research earlier, and just to give you an idea, West Brom, I think, on your graphic there, have 69 points. At the same point in the Championship, when we were there, we were on 77. And everyone was freaking out, saying we're not going to get promoted. We're actually 8 points better off than West Brom are now on their top. So they're definitely beatable. I think they've only got the 8th best home record in the Championship as well. They're very much an away team that play in the counter-attack. So yeah, it's I think you've called it spot on, Robert. It's a free hit for them. If they get beat, that's all right. We'll play again on Saturday. Back to the real stuff.
Billich has hinted on that he'll play a weakened side. I think it will be now that they got beat as well of Wigan, who are obviously in the lower end of the Championship. This is the game that's not priority for them. It's nice that they're in, but it's not priority. There's the big dollar Premier League, isn't it?
And so if Billich does go along with his word and end up fielding a weakened side, Lee, we've got a question here from Jack. Would you give any of the under-23s a chance?
No.
This is too risky.
I think Johnny touched upon brilliantly there, morale. If we play kids and get put out, I think I'll be pointing at Bruce. Why haven't he played a full-strength squad? Rafa's been criticised for that. Previous managers down the year. Play full strength. I don't even think Carl Darlow should play. Go with Dubravka. because I think West Brom will probably, even though they're at home, slight favourites based on the two clubs' forms. We're not scoring goals, they are. Now, what side they put out, I think the Baggies will be favourites for it. I think go for your full strength. If you are going to change one or two, maybe one or two from the bench, but that'll be maximum. I would like to say full strength, and then the thing I can't be pointed and say, oh well, we'll play the weakened side.
Interesting. We've had a question. Will Alan Smith be at West Brom for Newcastle Fans TV? Of course. That is a song that I think will do a pretty good impression of, and you might recognise the voice because you see. Oh no, that's not very good. It takes me a while to sort of get impressions spot on. But of course, he's been on the show a few times in the recent past. Credit to him. You saw one of the videos for Arsenal away 2 weeks ago now. Yes. And here's a good question here. Why not give Tom Allen a look on a bench to try something different if the game allows? So I'd say, do you reckon, Alex, that if we're 2 or 3 goals to the good, is it worth it to have the under-23s on the bench as fillers, or does it have to be full strength 11, full strength bench?
Yeah, I'd agree with Lee here. It's if it was to go wrong on Tuesday and he didn't have the best possible players available to him out of choice, then he would take a lot of pressure. And I think there are players from our bench like Lazaro, like Christian Atsu, like Joe Linton, hopefully, who could still do with some of that game time. Look at Lazaro; he hasn't played in his proper position yet as a right winger. Now we're playing a more offensive formation. I think he could be really suited to that. So I'd much rather see him rather than a young lad. And ultimately, the young lads in the under-23s won't succeed because they get 5 minutes at West Brom, even though I'm sure it'll be good for their careers. If they're good enough, they'll come through like Matty Longstaff has.
Oh, sorry, John.
I was just going to say, I'm just looking at West Brom's run there. I think it was probably the best result we could have had was them losing on Saturday, because it gives them the doubt.
Yeah.
They might not get promoted. They might get put off top. Leeds got a big win against Hull on Saturday, and it's almost a reminder, well, the job's not done yet. Fulham are breathing down the neck with the likes of Mitrovic and Kearney and whoever. Them losing to Wigan, which like Alex says, it was a shock, is only going to benefit Newcastle. I think you look at West Brom this season, they've got experience, but they have got youth, and Billish is just letting them play. But they've got the experience head around the likes of Charlie Austin, who's done okay. He has been injured a few times, but he's done okay for West Brom. Gareth Barry's played his part. Jake Livermore, he seems to have done really well at West Brom this season. It's a nice balance, actually. It's a really nice balance, and I think you've got I think you can see there Matt Phillips and Howard Robson-Kanu. You hope more of the youthful players are playing, because again, there's still.
Well, they put West Ham out with playing the reserves.
Well, but they still play likes of Gareth Barry in this game as well. And Gareth Barry's he's played over 500 games in the Premier League as well. He's not going to be phased about playing against Newcastle, but I'm looking forward to it. But I just want us to win. I love the FA Cup. I'd love us to go to Wembley, but I'm trying not to get too excited because I know we're still at least 2 games away from that. But how good would it see an end at Wembley just full of black and white? It'd be brilliant.
It's something to dream of. It's something that I have been dreaming of course.
It's I'm not as, I know we'll take the mick out your age, Lee. And
I am not that old.
But you've had the chance to probably see Newcastle play the old Wembley in the late 90s.
Alex, I'm sure you have. You?
I'm 31. How old are you? I don't know.
I'm 34. So you would remember obviously the late 90s when we got the double finals, and then Rob Lee had on the semi-final the following year. Yeah, It was
Cardiff 04 against Man United.
Yeah, Van Nistelrooy ripped apart, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Those are the memories you want. Like because we've never took the FA Cup seriously in the last 12, 15 years. You've got like a generation that have missed out on that, and it's sad to see. Especially with the club the size of Newcastle. But as you saw on your screen not so long ago, West Brom's form, even after yesterday's defeat, Johnny, they've been in excellent form. Just 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat, which of course that win for Wigan has meant that our friends over the road at Middlesbrough have slipped into the relegation zone.
Well, they've got a derby next season.
Yeah, they've got a good derby, haven't they?
Yes, of course, Middlesbrough and Sunderland, 2 clubs that were in the Premier League 3 years ago, could be in League One 4 years later.
Absolutely brilliant. That's a full circle. Massive.
But yes, They beat West Brom, beat Charlton in the third round, and then Slaven Bilic came back to haunt his former club West Ham en route to this fifth round. What do you make of the fifth round being? Well, this is of course a bit of history. The fifth round is the first time that it will be.
Me and Johnny just Johnny
Sorry,
just seen a funny comment there. Do you want to read that out there, Johnny?
No, I don't like 40 anymore.
Not many people do like 40.
Oh.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. 40.
I fell out with
we love you, really.
I fell out with 40 at the Crystal Palace game, but then again, Crystal Palace was absolutely disastrous. It was one of the worst games I've seen this season. I think you said you after 80 minutes in,
Shall I make up for 40's absence and disagree with you?
You can do whatever you like, because you're nice to us.
Am I?
I thought you were anyway.
Good for me. Keep your hair on anyway.
Oh, what a low blow that was. That is absolutely terrible. Oh, yeah. I'm off. I'll see you later.
Oh, thank goodness for that. But yes, here's a few stats for us. We've only lost one in the last 4 against West Brom. Of course, the last time we played to them, Salomon Rondon was playing for the Baggies. Yes, it's the Baggies, isn't it? Yes. They were playing for the Baggies that day at St James's Park, and it was a bit of a shock result, of course, West Brom coming away with 3 points. And funnily enough, we've only played West Brom once in the FA Cup since 1974. Can anyone tell? Of course, Johnny's just read my notes, so he's.
I was reading a comment actually.
He's excluded from this question. But can any of you remember the season when we have played them?
9-10.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, in the 4th round, of course, we lost 4-2 that day. Good memory of the Hawthorns, would you agree? Back in March 2012.
Yes, we beat West Brom 3-1 in the orange kit.
Yeah, thank you for reading my notes again.
No, I knew that one.
I remember when we played that. Remember that custard one, the first day of the championship?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I always
David
remember
Duff's
because
equaliser.
wasn't Tim Krul stung by a wasp because didn't he come on at half time or something?
Like
Yeah.
that,
And then he got stung because it was a summer's day and we drew 1-1.
Yeah, Harper had to come off at half time for concussion after being kicked in the head by Shola Amiobi. Shola tried to clear the ball off the line and but missed the ball and hit Harper that kicked Harper in the back.
I don't know
of
why I
the head.
remember. It's just a random. Obviously the
Bobby Robson, wasn't it?
I also remember the Ben Arthur. It was a 3-0 away win. One of the best away performances.
That's the March 2012 one, isn't it?
That was phenomenal. That was a great. That was the yellow orangey kit, wasn't it?
Yeah, West Brom were a good side. They're not Hodgson as well.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
great win. That.
Yeah, and it's safe to say that they haven't really been the side that they were since under Hodgson after he took the England job for Euro 2012. And of course, this fixture has sort of seen the bad side of things, as this was the last match of Chris Hughton's time at Newcastle United, sadly a 3-1 defeat. Of course, we look back on that and think that was an awful decision, but we continue to live when we live on in hope, and hope Chris Hughton is doing well. It's been a while since we last heard from him, since he got sacked by Brighton, isn't it?
I think if you look at the last 15 years of Newcastle managers, apart from Benitez, is probably the second most liked manager. When you look at the managers we've had, and include the likes of Steve Bruce and John Carver and Alan Pardew and Sam Allardyce, and Dennis Shearer had a little spell of 8 games, but he was always under pressure really by everybody around him, because no one thought he had the capability of being the first team manager. He was always the coach, is that phrase, always the bridesmaid but never the bride. And when he was the bride, and if I'm using that phrase, he took Newcastle from a relegation disaster back to the Championship easily, has to be said, and was absolutely fine before getting sacked for whatever reason. I think it still is to this day. There's too many advisors who don't have a clue about Newcastle United and don't have a clue about the running of this football club. But he always gets a fantastic reception when he was a manager for Norwich or for Brighton. But it's hopefully he'll get back into the Premier League very soon.
That brings me nicely on to the next question. Alex, do you think there's a place in the Premier League still for Chris Hughton when a managerial job comes available?
I think it's less and less likely these days, because a lot of clubs now want some sort of identity in terms of a passing football game. You look at Brighton appointing Potter. Norwich have come up and continued to play good football, if not get the results maybe they feel like they've deserved. And I think West Brom are a good example. tread water for a long time under Tony Pulis, and the fans just turned on it. So even though they were staying up in 15th, 16th place every season, a little bit like us, fans eventually get sick of watching terrible football. And I really like Chris Hughton as well. I think he's a lovely bloke and did a really good job for Newcastle. Unless he can progress and adapt as a coach, I think he'll struggle. However, that said, I don't think he's ever been relegated. I think he was sacked by Norwich before they went down, but still before. So I think he might always be in with a chance of a club who's struggling about this time next year. If they want a safe pair of hands, Chris Hughton's the man. And then, like any manager, if you've got the chance, all you can do is make the best of it. More likely you'll see him come in at a top-end championship club. I know he actually spoke to West Brom. I think he turned down the West Brom job before Bilic took it. And you'll see him back in the Premier League bring a club up like he did with Brighton.
Another stat as well, you mentioned he never technically got relegated. Never's Rob's favourite man, Mark Hughes.
Don't get me started on Mark Hughes.
Didn't technically take anyone down, but he really did, didn't he? Took 2 clubs down, really.
Effectively, yeah.
Particularly Stoke, I have to say.
Yeah, but we've had a fairly amusing comment from Jason English. Lee, do you remember the 1910 FA Cup final replay at Goodison?
Hi, I was an 80s lad, so no, unfortunately not.
You sure?
1880, lad, were you?
No, I wasn't. I'm not that old. Hi, I'm not the oldest member in our Newcastle Fans TV. That honour can go to Mr. Paul Rutter. Sorry, Paul, to dig you out there, but he's got a good 5-year on me, I think he has, or even 6-year.
Yeah. And so we have a clip coming up. It's Lee and Johnny discussing
be careful of the wind
on Tuesday. Yes, so wind warning here.
So would you have been happy with the point today at home at Burnley?
I'll be comfortable with a content, probably. I wouldn't say I'm happy content.
It stops the rot, but I'm not happy.
Yeah, I'm not happy because we've then got West Brom, which we'll touch upon now. There'll be a preview after the radio show tomorrow morning, West Brom, but it's a quick turnaround. You're talking 2-3 days. There's loads of us down there. Paul's down there, Kyle's down there, I'm down there, Johnny's down there. Sam's there, Fordy's even there. I'm sure he'll have something to say because he's Mr. Grumpy at the minute. It's a quick turnaround, but do you expect Bruce to stay with the formation? Alan Saint-Maximin's going to come in. Do you expect many changes?
I just think that might be the only change. You might give one of the defenders a rest. You might give Lascelles a rest, but if he's playing his strongest team, I'm expecting the same 11, but ASM for Joe.
Dubravka and goal again.
Oh yeah, you have to play Dubravka. You have to play Dubravka for me if you want to try and get through this game. I don't think Darlow's done much wrong, but Dubravka's our best goalkeeper, and we haven't been in a 5th round game.
It's going to be unknown territory going down to the Birmingham area.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, Lee, I think this is Newcastle's biggest game of the season.
Lift the mood
It would lift the mood, and I think it would take more pressure off Steve Bruce. It really would. I think today, if you offered him a win between Burnley and West Brom, I think he would have given you West Brom today. I really do, because if you take a point today and say you get something at Southampton next week, you're still 2 games ahead of the likes of your West Ham, your Watfords, your Aston Villas and your Bournemouths. So I think if you get the West Brom win, you go, look, I'm in a quarter-final of an FA Cup, a couple of wins away from safety. On that side of it, without looking at the football side of it, it looks like a good job. We just need to see better performances on the pitch. But if we can make a statement against West Brom going, we've won 2 or 3-0, comfortable performance, and we're through at the quarter-finals, going into the Southampton game, it should lift spirits, because Southampton, again, is a game we can get points from.
What was that you said there, Johnny? What was that you said? Couldn't quite hear us. Constantly leaned over that voice message. But yes, top of the Salmon, beautiful views, has to be said. And but yes, let's move on. So the FA Cup 5th round it's undergone a fair few changes this season. It's the first time that an FA Cup tie will be played in midweek. That's excluding replays, of course. And speaking of replays for the 5th round have been scrapped entirely. If it is a draw after 90 minutes, we will be going straight to extra time and then penalties if required. So there will be a winner on the night, so don't worry about people who are concerned about an extra game interfering in the schedule. But if we do win on Tuesday night, then that will mean a weekend quarter-final on the weekend of the 21st or the 22nd of March, one of those 2 dates, which will mean, of course, should that happen, the game against Aston Villa at home will have to be moved to a different date. So, Johnny, what are your thoughts on this restructuring of the FA Cup this season, moving 5th round ties to midweek games to accommodate this mid-season break that we had a few weeks ago?
Well, the Premier League clubs, Premier League managers, former players have all said, we need a winter break, we need a break, we need a break. And as soon as you give them a break, everyone's going like, why are we having this break now? I think what you either do, but I think the problem is with the UK broadcasting companies, they don't want consecutive weeks without Premier League football. So they want to do the half the week you have 4 or 5 games, and half the week you have another 4 or 5 games, because obviously for them they need that for some of the subscriptions as well. In terms of the FA Cup, I love the FA Cup because for sentimental reasons, but the 5th round, having just midweek fixtures, will benefit the FA Cup in the long run. It will, because all the focus is on the FA Cup this week, from Monday to Thursday. It's on every day this week until Friday. That's the big thing, the FA Cup. And the thing is, the fixtures are quite good as well. You've got Portsmouth versus Arsenal at the start of the week, which is potential banana skin for Arsenal. And then you've got Sheffield Wednesday against Man City, Derby Man United, Chelsea Liverpool, and you've got all different types of games for the FA Cup. And then you've got us as well, who could potentially get into the quarter final. I do like the way they've done it. I think the argument is, you need to scrap replays. But if Rochdale didn't get that draw in the 3rd round and didn't get the replay, if Oxford didn't get that draw against Newcastle at St James's and didn't get the revenue from the BBC, where do these clubs get the money? Because they're not getting Sky Sports and BT Sport money from the Premier League every week, like Newcastle do. They've got, I think the 3rd and 4th round should still stick to replays, whether the big teams like it or not. They've got a squad of 20-25 players now, who are still very, very good players, by the way, in comparison to other teams. So, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I think this is probably the way forward, which we'll see for a number of years.
I'm on the right line. The only thing I would change is I would scrap replays completely, unless you're a club from League One onwards, downwards. I think Championship clubs nowadays, finances, I don't think they're going to be hit with a 3rd round or 4th round, unless it's a severe case of someone in financial difficulties. But how often now the Championship clubs get into that? I think League 1, League 2 should have the right for a replay, no matter what round it is. Don't care, even if it's all away.
So would you like a system like in the FA Trophy, where once a draw has been made, the 2 clubs who are playing each other come together and they discuss whether they
No,
would
I
like
wouldn't say that. I
extra
think
time or a replay?
if you're League 1 downwards and you draw that game, you have a replay. If you're Championship club versus Premier League,
they
goes
would
to
not have any
penalties.
choice in the matter.
It was cut its income for them.
Yeah, teams like Sunderland need that.
Interesting. So we have just over 3.5 minutes left of the show. Alex, what are the first names that you want to see on the team sheet on Tuesday?
Martin Dubravka, the goalkeeper, and there's a suggestion that he might be dropped for Caldolo, not dropped, rested.
Yeah.
But I think we'll have to play the strongest team. I think one of the lads alluded to that before. John Joe Shelby's crucial to me, and then I think Miguel Almiron, Dwight Gale as well. We need them to continue what we saw on Saturday, because we're going to score goals to win the game. I don't want to go to penalties, and to do that, I think we're capable of doing that, and I think West Brom will offer us chances. So yeah, they're the 3 for me that I think have to play.
So of course, Alan Saint-Maximin was benched yesterday. Do you think, Lee, that on Saturday morning Steve Bruce woke up and he thought, yeah, Tuesday night is the bigger game here, we need 1 or 2 players benched for the Burnley game in order for them to be at their freshest and best for arguably the more important game on Tuesday? Would you agree with that?
No, I wouldn't agree with you. Sorry, Rob.
No,
I think
it's not my opinion necessarily.
I think the FA Cup game is a massive benefit morale, but I think now with Watford winning, it's kind of like, oh, wait a minute, we're only 5 points away now. That just, that's, if we lose the next league game and one of those 3 clubs that are on 27 win, that's 2 points. I think it'll help Steve Bruce if we get through. I think it'll keep the fans optimistic that we've got something to look forward to in a few weeks. But I think if we go out the FA Cup, I think the pressure mounts massive, because now it's all about the league, and if results don't go our way, we're not scoring goals, we're struggling. So I think it'll help the fans and Bruce if we get through, but I don't think it's the biggest game this season. Sorry, Johnny.
Interesting. We've had a comment coming in from Kenny Wharton. He said the FA Cup should be at the weekend. Fans suffer again due to the midweek requirements. It's interesting that, because obviously tradition would say that FA Cup should be a weekend thing, and it always has been unless it's a replay. Do you think we are edging closer to contemporariness and shifting from 2 domestic trophies, Johnny, to 1 domestic trophy, and with that being solely, like cup games solely being played in midweek?
No, I don't. I think we are 2 traditionalists. We'll not get rid of the FA Cup. We'll not get rid of the League Cup. We really won't. I think. Unfortunately, there's a lot of money.
Germany, however, do have only 1 domestic cup.
Yeah, but in England, it's well renowned. I would like to see the viewing figures for the League Cup final today. I'd like to see how many people are watching the FA Cup this week. So, no, it won't change. It won't change in the immediate future.
I think what might change is the 2-legged semi-final. That'll go to 1 game.
Well, I think it needs to, because it's just after all the Christmas games as well. So it should be just 1 game. Or if you're going to do like they used to do in the FA Cup and have a neutral ground.
And yes, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the show with only 30 seconds before we go off air. And I'd just like to thank you very much to Johnny Greenwood. My thanks to Lee Lawler. Great job working on the stream. Johnny's mate working on the controls at times. We'll have a chat after this. Now's not time. Of course, Alex Hurst, thank you very much for coming on. It would be lovely to have you on again. You've been a fantastic guest. And yes, thank you very much. And so, yes, this show comes to an end. We'll be back same time next week. Thank you very much for your company. And yes, have a lovely week. Bye for now.
When I walk into the kitchen, you saw the look on my face. You saw the look on my heart to get out of this place. I seen something I've never seen before. When you put on the pineapple, we couldn't be friends anymore. Pineapple blossoms, go on pizza.